Here.
You say me?
Here.
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 This conference will now be recorded.
Here. Here.
Are we ever?
I thought it was a speaker. All right, I would invite you all to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Our first items tonight are proclamations. I have proclamation for the city's National Day of Prayer coming up. Whereas throughout the history of America, faith in the Almighty God building up of this great nation, from early pilgrims to the Continental Congress to the many presidents and governors who have served, we have exalted the Lord, giving him praise and overflowing with gratitude throughout the generations as he carries us through times of great crisis and celebration. And whereas in our city and across America, the observance of the National Day of Prayer will be held on Thursday, May 5th, 2022, with the theme, Exalt the Lord who has established us, based on the verses in Colossians 2, 6 through 7. Therefore, as you have received I'm going to move on to the National Day of Prayer has been part of our heritage since it was declared by the First Continental Congress in 1775 and a public law established in the United States Congress in 1952, approved by a joint resolution and later amended by Congress and President Reagan with Public Law 100-307 in 1980, affirming that it is essential for us as a nation to pray, and directs the President of the United States to set aside and proclaim the first Thursday of May annually as the National Day of Prayer. And whereas leaders and citizens of our nation are afforded the privilege of prayer, affirming our spiritual legacy of instituting times of thankfulness and renewed reliance on God, we ought to exercise the freedoms we have to gather and pray, to unify hearts, communities, and our country while we hold dear to our faith, freedoms, and to one another as fellow Americans, all fearfully and wonderfully created in the image of God. May we take time to pray for our nation and our Now, therefore, I, Rick Walker, Mayor of the City of DeSoto, do here proclaim May 5th, 2022 as Day of Prayer in the City of DeSoto, Kansas. And I commend this observance to all of our citizens. Was there another one, Brandon?
Nope.
Okay, it's for our next meeting?
Yeah, the other one is for the
All right.
May 19th, I believe, next council meeting.
All right. Moving on. Our next item is our consent agenda. Tonight on the consent agenda, we have approval of the minutes from our council meeting of April 7th, approval of pay ordinance number 924, approval of an agreement with KDOT for detour mitigation funding, approval of resolution 1073 waiving general government accounting procedures for 2021, and approval of resolution 1074 waiving general government accounting procedures for 2022. Is there anything anyone would like to discuss or a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Hanamichael.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Our next item is call to public. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to comment about any not listed on tonight's agenda. The comments that are discussed under call to public may or may not be acted on by the council. Does anyone wish to address the council under call to public? Seeing none, we'll move on. Item 3 is old business, which we have none. So we will go to item 4A, receive a presentation on Ottawa Street reconstruction.
Yes, Council, I'd like to introduce Joel Buffington with CFS Engineers, designer on the project, and also Justin Milburn, who is a subconsultant to CFS, utility coordination and the stormwater runoff calculations. I did provide a brief detail overview of what the entail. It should not have been any great surprise to you in terms of the scope of the project. We do have a revised cost estimate, however, that is exceeds what we have in our capital improvement for the project, so we'll need to at that point. I do want to turn it over to Joel, though, to kind of step you through some of the design elements and some of the decisions that we've made during the process. We want to kind of have this conversation with you here tonight, get your approval to move forward, because the next phase really is getting the project out to bid, getting those bids back in here, considering those bids, and scheduling for construction. At this point, the construction schedule is contemplated. We won't allow construction to start until all the large events down in the park are over this year, so sometime in the fall. I'm not sure whether that'll be September. I don't really remember when the latest big event is down there. Sometime start in the fall, and very likely they'll have to finish up in the spring. It'll likely take, asphalt plants will shut down over the winter. Likely have to finish up.
We should build it out of concrete then.
We could have that as a,
Joel, before you begin, could I ask you, would you rotate that mic up so you
oh, is that mic on?
would? I think.
It was, but let me go jump. Let me go check.
Sorry.
Joel, will you turn that mic on?
It's yeah, it's tricky.
No.
Nope, hold on.
I think it has, yeah.
I used to work with Joel, so I can give him a little bit
Yes.
of a hard time.
How about,
Yeah, hello, okay.
There we go.
yeah, much better.
Yes,
Thank you.
Rick used to be my boss.
He's still your boss.
Okay, thank you. I'm Joel Buffington, CFS Engineers, project manager for this project. I think everyone should be, I'm sure you all are aware. We'll just start with the location. It's Ottawa Street from 82nd Street north to Riverfest Park entrance. It's about a third of a mile. Our typical section is two 11-foot lanes with two 5-foot pike lanes, curb and gutter, closed storm sewer, so that, curb inlets and then one large crossing with RCD crossing. As Mike mentioned, we are partnering with Observance Engineering. They have taken the lead on the RCD design, erosion control, traffic control, and utility coordination. And I only have good things to say about Justin, very knowledgeable, very responsive, so appreciate having him on our team. We have quite a few project stakeholders. There's 3 or 4 private property owners south of BNSF crossing. We do have 2 rail crossings for this project, BNSF to the north, and then a railroad spur south of that serves Maki and Rare Pacific. So there are several city properties adjacent to the roadway. We have all the utility owners, and KDOT in Johnson County are also involved with funding. So they are also partners on this project. The field survey and the boundary survey are complete. Geotech was completed. I would say our design model is probably 95% complete. So we have details, and so we're very close on plans. Our right-of-way plans, legal descriptions, and exhibits. I have some of the private property owners' exhibits and legal descriptions to the city. So I will, Mike, who is my, are you the main contact point on the right-of-way?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yep.
all right. So the remaining tracks are city, county, and railroad. I'll get into the railroad in a little bit. City, I'll discuss with Mike, defining right of way through city. I don't know how you want to handle it on the park side, but we can discuss that. So there's only one little piece of right of way that's required for that, or right of way from private owners, private property owners. This is temporary easement. We are in the midst of utility coordination. Justin has sent out 3 notices to the utilities. We have a utility meeting next week, next Thursday. We know Evergy and I'm pretty sure Evergy and AT&T will have to relocate. They have been working on the relocation plans. We have CenturyLink, Charter, and Lumen that I think Justin said CenturyLink was called in this week. Atmos, I think they're clear. We're gonna get that confirmed by them. And then RG Fiber runs along the west side of the road. And I think we're out of RG Fiber. I've worked with them, talked with them a couple times. It would just be there in between 82nd and the railroad. So there is a city sewer force main that crosses the road at least twice. I was concerned about the crossing just north of 82nd. And we, Marshall Goodnight and his crew, pothole on either side of the road. And so we found the sewer, adjusted the profile, and we're able to avoid that. So we don't have any relocations on the sewer. There is a 2-inch water line that serves the park, and I think that may need to be lowered. I'll confirm that, but that could be included in this contract for the contractor. So that's all the utilities. Permitting, we're in pretty good shape on permitting. Wildlife Park, Historical Society, we have cleared. Our application to the Corps for a nationwide permit is pending. We did get a permit from Kansas Department of Water Resources for floodplain fill and stream construction, so that is clear. And then Justin will apply for the land service permit with ADOT once we get to final plans prior to bidding. The railroad crossings, I've been in contact with BNSF. And they have, okay, so basically we're widening the road, so they're gonna have to replace, the concrete panels across there if they're not wide enough. And then they're gonna have to relocate the signal arm, so signal warning and arms. So we do have those estimates, and I'll share that with Mike.
So we are responsible for the cost of relocating the railroad signal arms and the extra crossing tie work.
Yeah, it
Okay.
appears so, yeah.
Sorry.
So BNSF, they do the design and the construction of the panels and the gates. So we're kind of at their mercy on cost and scheduling to some degree. the spur, we don't need, arms or gates, they flag it, they use it, I think, maybe once or twice a week. So, but we will need to widen those panels, replace those panels, and that will be part of this, project, so the contractor, most likely will have to get a subcontractor to do that work. I've talked with, a company that does that work, and they've directed me, I mean, so we're designing it, we're speccing it for BNSF, light industrial rail. Because although it's not, that spur is not owned by BNSF, BNSF uses it, and if it's not up to their specs, they won't so I don't know that there's more than a couple of contractors who do that here in town, so I'm thinking we're gonna do one more contractor. So I'm working with BNSF. Apparently there is no roadway easement agreement through the railroad right of way at the moment. So I'm working with, they contract with Jones Lang LaSalle for property acquisition. So I'm getting a roadway easement for the city through there, and I'll share that with you. They actually did send me my, construction and maintenance agreement draft today.
We're not gonna like that, are we?
You know, I didn't even have a chance to look at
Yeah,
it, so.
we don't, yeah.
I'll send it to you.
Those agreements are pretty
It
one-sided.
is a draft, and it's, so, that draft has been sent to legal, and he said we should get it here within the next month with their legal department's
Yeah.
comments.
We did something similar when we built the new sewer plant out west, and this force main that runs along this road, we have a use agreement or crossing agreement with BNSF, and it's shocking in its one-sidedness toward the railroad. Really, we don't really have any right to have pipe there. It's just that they'll ignore it until they choose not to. It's kind of surprising how.
Yeah, they want to know everything that's in their land. I just learned this week that the storm sewer is considered a utility and will be permitted
Through BNSF.
on top of the roadway agreements.
Is it their utility?
So, it's, there's two different people at this Jones Lang LaSalle. One does like the roadway permanent easement, and then someone else does utility easement. So, if anybody needed to relocate through the right of way, any regular utility, any power or whoever, they would need to go through that outfit to get that permit. And I guess they consider storm.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's moving along. Spur, we gotta cover that. We'll just need to, coordinate with, I guess sunflower redevelopment, Hugamaki and Rarick. When I was out there when we were doing potholing, the Rarick Pacific guy was out there, and, he did say they will not truck anything, they only use the rail, so we will have to coordinate that. I don't think those panels will take any more than a week. The BNSF guy told me if they were ready to go, a day. And I guess back to BNSF, whoever our contractor is, they will need to have insurance, they will need to have a right of entry agreement, indemnification, so all of that costs will need to go into our estimate for the contractor's proposal. We had talked about trying to get a quiet zone crossing there at the BNSF, crossing, because as of now, the train was the horn. There is a thing called a quiet zone calculator. So I've run that for different scenarios, and from what I can tell from their guidance, that crossing is eligible for quiet zone, like as is with the gates, so without having to have the need that's the way I understand it. So I have, I'm trying to get in contact with someone at KDOT who does the crossing inventory, just to get that confirmed. Because if we do need to have that median, as we talked about, that'll be something.
So we might be able to get a quiet zone with the design that we've got here.
Yeah, with like the existing condition, I
Yeah.
think is eligible for that. So I think it would be something, that would have to go, that might be something we have to do.
Yeah.
I don't know that I could do it.
Yeah, I think it has come from the
Yeah, from the,
entity.
and like notify everybody involved. So I don't think I think the nearest crossing, like private crossings, are a mile and a half either side of the top of the street. So you have to have a mile clear, of the crossing. With the, because those aren't gonna be gated, signed. So I think with our crossing, with the new gates, new signals, striping and signing, I think you'll be eligible. I'll
Okay.
confirm that before we get too far. Schedule, cost estimate, KDOT funding, requires letting by August 22nd of this year. So that's hard, I think that's a hard date. I know at least by the end of August, I'm pretty sure it's August 22nd. Which should not be a problem. So Mike, I did do a working day study that we talked about, at our last meeting. So overlapping and, kind of having an aggressive schedule, I come up with 70 working days, which I calculate to be more or less 105 calendar days. So I was looking at the schedule, 105 calendar days would be, like, we could start August 1st, they'd be done November 15th. That would be a discussion we can have, like scheduling. If it's too much later than August 1st, like you said, you're not gonna get asphalt.
Yeah, we have events in the park in August, so.
Right. And the first thing they'll do, I imagine, is tear out those culverts and start building that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that can't be last, that's for sure.
Okay, lighting plans, we have a general layout. I know on 91st Street, we did that same thing instead of the West Star, they did the design, they did installation. I think that's Evergy now, probably same agreement, okay, good. And now the doozy cost estimates. We are at 1.83 million. That number does include the, cost estimate from BNSF. They broke that out into panels and signals. I estimated a little less on the spur panel crossing. I think the BNSF crossing, panel crossing, that includes their engineering, their overhead, their everything. So, as I told Mike, I bumped up some prices. I'm not sure I bumped them up enough. I haven't seen a lot of bid lettings lately. I know we had one this week that was extremely high on a different project, kind of different scope, but, and we only got 2 bids and it was double. So, it's a little concerning. I don't know. Because that was a streetscaping project. I think this could be a good project for somebody coming in and doing a storm in the fall. Just have it work at the end of the season. But we'll dig into that a little more. But I'm pretty comfortable with that. I know it's higher than.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, the CIP has about 1.2 million for construction for this project. So we're 600,000 under. we're gonna be tackling the CIP update, in conjunction with the budget process this year. We just, normally we do that before, but, well, we're backed up this year, so we need to take this into account, obviously.
Our KDOT and county matches or funding, those are already, they're fixed, right?
Yeah.
They're not a percentage match.
I'll have to check on the KDOT. There was a max, yeah.
I think it was
KDOT was a max.
capped.
Was a
I think
cap.
it's 700,000.
No, I think it's closer to $1 million, isn't it?
But yeah, it is a hard number.
Yeah, it's a hard number.
It's not a,
And I
Yeah.
believe.
The stormwater is,
SMAC money is about-
SMAC money was a set fee, a set amount, I'd recall. But,
yeah.
Okay.
So we'll have to dig into that with the CIP when we look at that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think the main message is the schedule, the cost, the scope. This is a complete street. We've got bike lanes on both sides. Curb and
In
gutter.
light of our
Yeah,
previous meeting, should we include street trees on this project?
yeah, that's something we should consider probably. The other thing is that the grading of the, Joel, correct me if I'm not right, but, the grading will allow for a sidewalk to be placed on the west side, but we're not gonna install that side of this project.
Correct, yeah, they believe it's a 5-foot green space and 5-foot sidewalk graded for future.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other side is an 8-foot sidewalk.
Yeah.
4-foot green space.
Yeah. And the sidewalk, Joel, I don't remember, the sidewalk will be outside of the signal arms?
Yes, BNSF, which surprised me, they wanted the sidewalk outside
So there's no,
so no one gets distracted,
okay.
which makes sense. 'Cause
Yeah, and yes and no, right? I mean, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so.
Well, they have a signal building right there, don't they?
Yeah, I think it's,
Yes,
isn't that right,
yeah.
right there? Yeah.
Yeah, they
No.
have that controller box, or, yeah, the box.
Yep.
And then they required access on both sides of the tracks, which they currently have. That one to the north kind of extends back, since we're grading out for that sidewalk.
Yeah.
Okay. Questions from council? I'll just share, I shared with Joel, my only comment was, park entrance, go back that other sheet, Mike. That drive replacement, I just requested that if I think it shows going to gravel past the sidewalk, and I just suggested that we would put that all back in with concrete, when we're rebuilding that driveway, certainly over that culvert, then it's a little more stable. And it's on a bit of a slope there, so won't have to worry about trying to make, that gravel rolling down that, dealing with that. So I think that was my only engineering comment on the plans.
You looked really, really hard, didn't you?
So did you, was that tough for you not to sit there and fine detail it? Give Joel a
Knows
grade.
all your tricks, Joel.
Learn to go down. Any other questions?
So I guess, do you want us to talk about schedule now, a letting schedule, or?
Sure, yeah,
Right,
if you wish. We'll be ready.
I guess we really need to know what that date would be for our last event in Riverfest Park.
What events do we have in August there?
What's happening there in September?
Brandon, do you know off the top of your head?
I
I'm
don't
sorry.
have,
I'm-
I don't have the dates, but if we can send you something.
All right.
thought there was a concert in August. but
I'm
is
pretty
that- Is that the one we moved with DeSoto Days?
I think there's a concert. If I remember correctly, they're the second week. Those concerts are the second week in June, July, and August. I'll get with Whitney and
All
we'll,
right.
we'll
One of our
reply.
city concerts, is that what you're
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah.
Do we have anything other than that scheduled? Does any outside group?
The chamber hasn't said anything about,
No, the chamber's not doing an event.
I kind of had the impression that they weren't doing the barbecue.
the barbecue
So
contest
that's
this
not going to
year,
be
so-
there.
That's
So then there
correct.
shouldn't be,
Maybe we'll be.
And there's still another way in, yeah, I mean, it could still happen.
I mean, if
would-
it was a small event, you know, a church or group wanting to do something, you know,
Different. I was
there's
talking about
still the
maybe-
other
There's still a way in there,
opening.
Yeah.
but,
We talked about having one uptown at one
Yeah.
time, so I mean, that might be an option, so they could start early.
What's that?
So we talked about having a concert uptown, so might be
Oh,
some-
yeah, it
something
could
we
be that
do,
we
and
move
then
that one.
That would let these guys begin work earlier.
Uh-huh.
It might help with the cost if we have a construction schedule that's
yeah, right.
the only other, I mean, as long as we limit their ability to close the road, you know, establish some time period for the road closed. As long as, you know, if the road remains open, then we can have a construction schedule that's pretty long, pretty permissive, without too much disruption, that might lower the cost a bit.
Yeah, I think that 70 days, that might increase the cost.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'll share that.
Especially when it hits in the season, because then you're asking somebody to buy that risk that they're gonna be able, in the middle of November, and,
Well, I think we could definitely forego any big event down there and try to get this taken care of. I mean,
So shoot for the August 1.
I mean, the other thing to think about too is not limit, I mean, give them the whole road, right? If we really don't need it, give them the whole road, let them have it for the 70 days. And that's probably gonna, because if they're gonna have to work around, an intermittent car, you know, maintain temporary surfacing through there and, deal with the intermittent traffic, that's, you know, that's gonna factor into raising somebody's price as well. Whereas if you said, close it, you have it, and work, get it done, and then open it back up, I think probably in our best interest to get a better product at a lower.
And that is kind of our direction at this point, is closed. We did a detour, we may detour them all the way around. But, yeah, kind of, I think what we're thinking is that we're gonna close the construction.
Yeah.
Now, if it ended up being a 2-season, you know, going into the spring, we would definitely, I would think,
Yeah, if they're gonna pull off for 2 months,
right, yes.
we might,
Then you'd have a little temporary service.
yeah.
Right.
For sure.
Mike, have you shared this with Northwest? They do have some,
Yeah, no, we have not. No, haven't done that.
that was my thought, was what about fire out there
there's
if
a
we
couple
have the whole
buildings
road
down at
closed?
the Edgerton corner, but, and then,
Yep.
a couple farm buildings.
Again, knowing when that is closed before you head that way, that changes how they attack
Yeah,
it,
sure.
and
Yeah,
Yeah, they can go
just
down to 10.
communication at that.
yeah.
That's what I asked.
So, it's not that it is closed, it's just letting everybody know that it's closed. Build a bit of concrete alternate. It might be cheaper than asphalt the way oil's going now. I don't think anybody has anything else. Thank you, Joel.
Good.
Thank you, Justin. Item B, consider real estate purchase contract for city-owned property on Lexington.
Yes, council, over the last several months, we've had discussions with Dustin Baker and Matt and Laura Fair about the possible purchase of 1.6 acres north of the Dollar General. This is a site that I think we've long envisioned something else going in. When we sold the acre and a half to Dollar General, that parking lot was laid out with the stub that goes to the north, and there discussions at that time about the possibility of the fire district going in at that point. In the last fall, Laura Fair reached out to Sarah Ritter and indicated that the veterinary, and Matt's here this evening too, that the vet clinic, they're just bursting at the seams. They need a bigger facility. And they started looking around town for one, couldn't really find anything in the existing building or existing property on the market that would suit their needs. So they approached me about the possibility of selling the piece. And not too long after that, Dustin Baker came to me and independently and asked about the possibility of a commercial project there. We did have a discussion with the Economic Incentives Committee, and the direction at that time was let's entertain the sale of the property primarily for the policy benefit of maintaining the veterinary town as a service, important local service to the community. So the two got together and were able to craft a purchase agreement that that has provisions for the sale of the property, and also has an assurance that the vet would be relocated there, but then there also would be a commercial component too. Mr. Baker submitted a layout to me that includes actually two buildings, each of which about 5,000 square feet. The vet clinic sounds like they need about 5,000 square feet, and so that would leave another about 5,000 square feet for general commercial operations, whatever might be kind of just a market rate lease commercial type facility. So what you have in front of you is a real estate that establishes a time period of discovery for Mr. Baker to come and get appropriate rezonings and any tax incentives that he might want for property before the deal would finalize and finally close. We did get a real estate appraisal on the property. That appraisal came back at 300 square foot, which is substantially more than a recent one that we got on property just adjacent to this for the fire, which is it's about twice the one that we got on the fire district. So it seems like that appraisal might be looking at comparables that are higher value area. There's some general feeling that might be higher than market value for the property. So what the proposed purchase agreement does is that it sets the value of the land at $310,000, but there's a provision that if indeed the vet clinic does in fact move over there, that we will rebate a portion of that. We'll rebate. The number's escaping me.
135,000.
Okay, so that the ending price effectively would be $175,000, or $2.50 a square foot. So, in terms of the incentives, Mr. Baker discussed with me the possibility of tax abatement incentives. This area is not in a targeted incentive area, but it is in the neighborhood redevelopment district. That district provides for some of a waiver of upfront fees, building permit fees, utility connection fees, and utility service fees, but doesn't provide for tax abatement purposes. So within the constructs of our incentive policy, it would seem appropriate for the council to consider that type of an incentive for this project, and that's what Mr. Baker would pursue if we choose to enter the contract tonight. He'd pursue that within the due diligence period, and that's a completely separate discussion with the council at that time, because we'll want to see some cost benefit numbers, some performance numbers. But for tonight, it's a real estate purchase option, essentially, with a due diligence period of 6 months to allow for those things to occur. So I'll stop there. Answer any questions you might have. Mr. Baker and Mr. Farrer both in the audience.
Questions from council?
What do we think the appraisal would
I mean, what do we really value the property at? I mean, you say it seems high.
I think I tried to, about that $2.50 a square foot. I think is probably about, and that's kind of where the property that's where it'd wind up if the vet clinic does come in and we rebate that portion back. So, right at about the $175,000 figure.
Because this is the same area that approximately 6 years ago that the two auto parts stores looked at. Is that right? Both sides of Dollar General, not Dollar Tree. I don't know who wrote this document.
Yeah.
Is this not you say it's not an incentive area, is it because the city owned it, or?
Oh, it's, I don't know. Just didn't get into one of those areas. I'll pull up that incentive policy.
Does this, it already has all utility, water, everything's there because the Dollar General went in there, the water, gas.
So here's the incentive map. And so the targeted areas there are in blue, and, it's right here, the property's right here. So, yeah, I can't say that we specifically considered this property when we were
So
looking at.
pretty much all the other commercial areas, being Commerce Drive and along Lexington, are incentivized for that purpose, but not that area.
Yeah, true. I think,
So all other like areas are incentivized.
yeah, I think most of the concept there is the infill sort of Lexington Avenue corridor, let's get that filled.
Infill or redevelopment,
Yeah.
because some of those you may have to demo something to make something work up in those other areas.
Right.
Yeah, because his other project isn't a quarter mile away, and we gave an incentive on it, right?
It's in
Yeah,
that
it's in
number
area
4
4
right there.
Yep.
Probably, I'm not quite sure we all kind of worked on the areas and what we were offering and giving when we came up with incentive policy, but, I'm not sure which of us actually made the map. I know it wasn't me, but, with that lone commercial retail place by itself over there with really that one piece of city-owned property is probably why it never got put into the incentive policy. I mean, there's nothing really else, right around it,
Yeah, I think.
landways that, I
think you're right about the city-owned. I mean, we didn't really
we
contemplate
didn't really think about it.
divesting that piece of.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. For
So, Mike-
the purpose that, a lot of our idea, always in some of the city-owned property, it was fire, the fire district,
Yeah.
and would they need it? Which one, now they're looking, or, maybe somewhere else, the other piece, but, so I guess to answer the question of why it isn't in there, I think probably partially an oversight, partially there was nothing really around it that we thought needed the incentives, in the same way, so.
And that's probably where we need to go back and relook at the map with Sunflower, with COVID, with the economic issues going on, and reevaluate some of this.
Certainly
Yeah, because
could.
I'm just thinking if at least it had the ability to get IRBs or some incentive, that he'd get the reduction on the commercial, the construction materials. That'd be
I
a
guess we can
huge help.
look at this in two parts. First of all,
Yeah.
where are we at with relation to parting with the property? Are we all in agreement that this is a property that would be appropriate to sell? I mean, to me, it's important to keep the vet in town. I think it's a great resource, business for our community, and we certainly don't want to lose the vet. So that was kind of my inspiration to try and find them a place. So I guess I will take a poll. Do we all believe that selling the property is good for the city to do right now? Any disagreement
No,
from?
I'm supportive of it, and I think it'd be a good place for that type of development.
That's why I steered in that direction.
It's excess right away, so if we aren't gonna do something to make it's just a bunch of excess right away that we
Right.
can put to more productive use, so I'm in favor. I guess if I can go back to Rob's question a little bit though, Mike, when you say kind of the $2.50 guess, are you basing that on what what that other parcel appraised out on a per square foot basis?
Yeah, yeah.
So when you give that opinion, you're basing it on some other
Based
piece
on-
of information?
Right.
Okay,
And that was at 160 at that point
okay.
for there.
So I guess that my question then would be to the potential buyers, where do you? $2.50 a square foot. Dustin, you're in the market, is that an unrealistic price for that piece of property, is it?
Dustin, I'm sorry, could you?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, would you mind stepping to the mic, sorry. I shouldn't just throw it at you and then not have you.
What I was telling Mike, when I looked at the appraisal, the one comp, the most recent comp that was sold, that was right down the street from this, was a piece of ground that I just bought.
Yeah,
And that was not in the comparables. And I paid roughly $2.50. So I think that's right in there.
okay. And so then the follow-up, I'm assuming that you guys are in agreement with this purchase agreement that we put together,
I am. Yeah.
and,
I sent it to Matt to review.
okay. So,
And we're not actually selling it tonight, we're entering an agreement that starts a due diligence.
yeah, right.
We're not
But
actually selling.
if
If
we're
it all
not,
goes
if we're not,
through.
we shouldn't waste either of our time, so.
But we are obligating, if you approve this, from the city's
Yeah.
standpoint, we have to sell it. Unless they wanna pull out, but we're committing to selling it.
And then any other asks as far as incentives or anything, that's another time?
That's right.
Good for that.
And so with that, if we're selling it, we're selling it to the joint, the two of them. But the rebate back only happens if the vet actually moves into it. But, I guess as of right now, that could change it too.
Yeah,
And then we're selling it to,
yeah, it
Just,
could. So that was
Dustin.
one thing.
and so,
we
we
thought
got to
about.
realize that too, that it,
Yeah.
So along those lines, then the other, it's one thing we had bannered about a little bit earlier is, if in lieu of any other incentive, perhaps if our incentive was to sell it for $2 a square foot, assuming the vet moves in there rather than $2.50, that becomes, that 50 cents per square foot becomes the incentive. I don't know what that's.
I think maybe it's the other way. So if, so the contract has both of their signatures on it. So they have to start at least both together. If at some point during the process, Mr. Fair decides he's going to do something else, then the property is still sold. After closing, I'm thinking. So we do that. They say they want it. We go ahead and close on the property. And then Mr. Fair decides, I'm going to do something else. He can still do that. He's not beholden to move in there. But in that event, then the price becomes the $310.
Yeah.
Then Mr. Baker has paid a premium for that. We can't get it back because I was thinking that our policy decision because this wasn't on the market, we didn't really have that policy discussion. So our policy decision really kind of stemmed around.
No, I'm
keeping
just
it
saying the
back.
discounted price could be better than $2.60 a square foot or what.
Sure, yeah.
Right, that was a value that you came up with. Maybe we believe it's $2 a square
Right,
foot.
yeah.
Is more, and then that ends a lot of maybe the future incentive discussions, that, so at what is that, 60,000 square feet, that's roughly a $30,000 incentive in my fast math. I don't know if that's really accurate, but.
Might just add that we did talk to Dustin about kind of what you're talking.
Yeah.
You know, we thought the council's thought would be to, you know, reduce the price in lieu of future incentives. I know Dustin did talk about it's important to him to get the tax exempt construction materials, which we could do that essentially, you know, just that. And then I know we did have some discussion about the neighborhood improvement district. So I don't know, Dustin, if what your thoughts are on sort of foregoing any future tax abatement or IRBs in lieu of the price cut.
Well, here, the main issue right now is I'm a broken record with what you guys have probably heard, right? Construction costs.
Yeah.
It kind of depends on, you know, what our construction costs gonna be next year. You know, what Matt and I are talking about is building 2 5,000 square foot buildings. With him occupying one and me trying to, get a tenant in the other, okay? But part of the issue is, you know, right now, to build a commercial building, it's every bit of $200 a square foot. And with rents or what Matt is used to, you know, absorbing, what I guess my point is, I haven't really ran the math. We're working with an architect and an engineer right now to get our plans together. I don't know what the ask will be, so I hate to handcuff myself. And I'm, you know, I don't wanna ask for any more than we need. But I hate to handcuff myself and say, yeah, $30,000 price reduction.
Yeah. Well, sales tax on that would be, what, like $180,000, right? 9% of $2 million, right? I mean,
Right.
you get all the sales, right? If
Yeah.
it's not just the city sales tax, it's the whole 9
And
point.
I would be grateful for that. I'm not saying that, but in the matter of a year, it could go up by that amount.
So could the land price.
So could what?
The land price, you know, keeps escalating too. That's not gonna stay the same.
I understand.
That property's gonna go up whether you build on.
Right.
Yeah, but I just think it's important that we keep in line with what we've done on that whole street. And I think that the IRBs are a minimum that you would want to do, but we can have that meeting some other time. I'm good to sell the property if he's good to pay for it.
And, you know, to Danny's comment, I think the rebate process is good because, you know, otherwise you get it at $2.50 a square foot and turn around and sell it for $4.
Yeah.
And just flip it, make money on it.
Right.
Well, I mean,
Well,
I'm not saying
no, I know.
I'm not good with the rebate.
No, I know.
I'm completely fine.
I mean, even a partial tax abatement, because you only asked for 50% on the previous 75. Right now, that property's netting zero.
Yeah, and I think with Dustin and Sarah working together to help put some people in his other building, I think it'll be a good addition for a lot of things.
Well, and if,
Well, I just think we need to keep the incentive discussion separate from this.
From the
purchase
Yeah,
contract.
I do
I mean, we
too.
keep
Totally
wandering off into the incentive
Oh, yeah.
conversation.
well, and
We're
I know.
here to talk
and-
about the
and I
purchase
mean,
contract.
And I'm supportive, especially of the vet, because for years we used Eudora. And now that Matt's here, we've started using him, and my belief is that his practice can probably be like Eudora, where people from outside the city come into specifically for.
Well, it sounds like we're in agreement on the,
Well, but more so than,
I'm okay with selling it,
yeah,
Mayor.
so I'm good.
I'm good with it.
Absolutely.
So do we need a motion?
yeah, I think if we,
Or-
Authorize the mayor to sign it.
So I'll make a motion, we authorize the mayor to sign the contract on the property on Lexington Avenue.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Daniels,
Yes.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right.
Next item is taken.
Okay. Item C. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Item C, consider ordinance 2534 levying assessments for Merck Benefit District. You saw the email from Patrick that we need to table this item. Would someone make that motion, please?
I'll make a motion, we table this item till May
Fifth.
5th.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Item 4D, consider ordinance 2535 rezoning Yost Trust property near 95th and Waverly.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. You have a rezoning request of rural agriculture to residential suburban. This property was annexed recently into the city of DeSoto. One thing you might notice, the application was submitted in January, however, you have to do the city, so we have to go through the annexation process. Taking about 3 months to get back to your consideration. We did do the appropriate issues, send out notification letters, post the sign, didn't get any comments from any of our residents. We've had about, I think this will be the 6th track along 95th Street, just been annexed, really basically between four of us, and we did garage to upgrade. Yes, these larger tracks, homes on, we're starting to fill in the piano keys and then Fifth Street. We're bringing them into the city. There's really only 3 uses allowed in the RO district. Homes, daycare, and resident found list. Those last 2 processes. Unlikely that things would happen in this location. In fact, the owner is still the longest residents in this location. So, moving through the criteria, as you can see, the zoning map, that's the track right there. The land uses around it are all residential, suburban, very few agriculture, zoning, tracks around it. Urban, trade to the west, the area is Arcadian State, is also residential. Zoning compatibility factors, I'm not gonna go through each one of these. Staff reviewed them all, the planning commission, and we presented to them. Whole findings are positive, something very neutral. Just have much of an effect one way or another on the environment, property actually vacant. Quite some time. Actually, it actually has some platted track, it has been platted. We did plat it, but we platted it in Johnson County. I'm not sure how. It's an interesting discussion with people, I don't quite know how governments work and function together, so. Anyway, planning commission had no objections to the rezoning of the property. No recognition. Residential suburban. With that, I'll stand for your questions.
Okay. Questions on the rezoning application?
Brad, you said it was replatted. Was it, do they plan 2 homes on this site or just 1?
Well, they're talking about doing a lot split, so they
That's what I
might do
thought.
that.
That's what I thought.
Track is set up, or it is wide enough to do 2 properties.
So is that, yeah, no, that's 2 lots.
Will they have to bring it back for that?
No,
Plat? No.
lot split's gonna be done next week.
Thank you.
So that's a second lot from Waverly.
The bigger one on the corner is not necessarily. One just to the east.
Which ones are in the city at that point around there?
Any other questions?
No, that was the only one. I'd heard that there wanted to be two homes.
All right.
Make sure we didn't constrain them with one motion.
Seems pretty straightforward. Are we ready for a motion?
I'll make that motion. We approve the rezone. Excuse me. I make a motion we approve the rezoning request based on the golden criteria, consistency with comprehensive plan and the surrounding land use.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Lane,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Mayor Walker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Also, there was an ordinance prepared. Do we want to maybe specifically act on the ordinance, Patrick? What's the,
Yeah, it's ordinance 2535.
sorry.
Is that not what I said? Ordinance?
Yeah. Amend the motion to
I'll amend my motion to read approve ordinance 2535, rezoning the property.
I'll amend the second.
All right. You want to go through roll call again on the amended motion?
Yes.
All right.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Hanamichael.
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Mayor Walker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Item E, consider on-call engineering services contract.
Yes, council, I think we've discussed before our intent to solicit for qualifications from engineering firms in the area to help us on an on-call basis with just general design and consultation matters. We did that several months ago. We received 13 proposals as a result of that RFQ that we sent out. And we formed a committee to review those proposals, and in the end, we're recommending that we select and enter into on-call services contracts with 4 of those firms. Those 4 firms are BG Consultants, PEC Consultants, HDR Engineering, and GBA. So the on-call program, as contemplated, establishes the contracts here, which include a fee schedule for services. But before any fees are charged, a task order would have to be negotiated. So if we have something come up that we need some engineering or design work for, we select one of the consultants from one of the 4, and then we negotiate essentially a mini scope and fee just for that project, that we then come back and approve that, and it just cuts out the qualifications-based selection process on each one of those elements. So what we have for you tonight is agreements, 4 separate agreements with those 4 firms, asking for your approval on. The on-call selection, or the on-call program would, any of those task orders that rise above my spending authority would come to council for specific approval, just like anything, any sort of purchase with that. We'll start with a consultant, whatever project comes up first. We have a number of them that we'd kind of like to get started on. I'll talk about a little bit about those if you wish. We'll select one and then just select on a rotational basis, unless there's some reason a particular project comes up where one of the consultants has already skipped the rotation in those cases. But the intent would be to enter these service contracts on a rotational basis. And we did last year and in the budget for this purpose, so that we can have this consultation help as it comes up during the year.
Mike, I just did want to note that I worked with David Hamby of BG to modify their contract. Nothing really significant, just trying to address some concerns their insurance carrier raised. So those revisions have been communicated to David, and he's fine with them, so I just wanted to let you know, when you authorize those contracts, the one with BG has some minor changes to it.
Okay. Questions?
Yeah, Mike, when you talk about the intent, I think clarifying how we're going to use them, so to some extent, they may be kind of staff augmentation that you may use as like program management or project management to, or plan review or things like that. You know, we've talked about as kind of as if we get really busy and your staff needs to evolve, this is one way of filling that gap, correct?
Yeah, good point.
And then, but it also, I presume, will not say that any or that all design projects that we have will all go through these on-call contracts. There still may be design jobs that have a traditional RFP process, correct?
Yes, likely there would be.
Okay.
What I'm saying is any project that we think the construction's gonna $1.5 million would still go through a different qualifications-based selection process. Any design fee, a task order, for instance, that would exceed $50,000 would go through the qualifications-based selection. That's the intent.
Yeah.
Any other? Okay.
So this would be a motion to authorize
Authorize the mayor to sign the
execute
contract.
these agreements. I'll make a motion to approve, or to authorize the mayor to execute agreements with BG Professional Engineering Consultants, HDR Engineering, and GBA for the purpose of on-call engineering services for the city, subject to any incidental language revisions that may arise in final agreement negotiations.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Ritter, Lane,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Item 5 is an executive session. We do not have anything for executive session tonight. Correct? Okay, advisory report, city administrator.
Yeah, just one thing, council, while we're kind of hot off that consulting service topic. I have had initial discussions with GBA for help in developing upfront documents that would allow us to initiate a design build contract for the sewer extension to Flint development. And we probably also would want that effort to include the sewer extensions out to Sunflower. So you may see a task order as soon as next month or next meeting for that. And I've also had conversations with HDR to help us look at grant opportunities, funding opportunities, primarily that come from the infrastructure bill. There are a flood of those opportunities out there, and they've got a group that kind of has their pulse on. They've been helping other municipalities around chase after some of those grants already, and they demonstrated some particular knowledge about that. So we might be looking at the first 2 task orders from that. Maybe.
Okay.
But the sewer design build is one that is really, we're on a deadline for that. So there's we will have something on the May 5th.
Okay.
That was all.
All right. Any questions for Mike on that or anything else? Nope. City attorney.
Nothing for me. I thought I'd mention, though, our bond counsel, Kevin Wimpy, just had his first child, so he's kind of out of pocket.
All right.
Loving fatherhood so far.
City planner.
No, I think, Mayor, I just wanted to, whoever bringing the preliminary plat,
Okay. Preliminary plat coming to the planning commission, is that right? All right. City clerk.
I have just one thing, I'll try to be brief. In March, you'll remember that the council approved the resolution calling an election for a sales tax renewal for water, roads, and sewer projects in the city. At your desk, or at your seat, you have 3 communication pieces. All 3 of them kind of have similar language, and I just wanted to, before we kind of dive in, thank Mike and Whitney for their work in helping us
I
put
didn't
together
do
this
any of
communication.
It's all Brandon and Whitney.
You looked at it and you proofed it and made some suggestions.
I looked at it.
The first piece in front of you, which is this piece, this is a direct mailer that is going to be scheduled to hit mailboxes for all residents in DeSoto in mid-May. The front of the piece has the ballot language, a little bit of information on the sales tax renewal, and then a couple questions that we've kind of decided would be frequently asked questions. So the first being, is this a tax increase? The second being, what kind of projects? The third being, how do we use the sales tax to fund these projects? And then the fourth being kind of, how much would the sales tax cost an average DeSoto resident? It also has a QR code, which does not work at the moment. So if you have your smartphones out, we are developing the webpage right now. We're hoping to have that up on Tuesday. So when this actually goes out, you'll be able to use your phone, click on that, and go to the website. That'll bring you all the information with the dates, the time, how to register to vote, and everything else. And the last piece on this front is the May 22nd City Council, in the City Council chamber. That is the info session for the sales tax. The next 2 pieces, the smaller piece that you have, again, has similar language. This is a palm card that we'll have out in front in maybe various locations. So if you come in to pay your water bill, you'll be able to pick this up and it'll give you a little bit of information. And then the last piece is the, bless you. The last piece is the, going to be in the utility bill for this month. This, which will go out in the next, I think it hits, if you get it digitally, it will hit your inbox on Tuesday. And this will go out in the utility billing, and it has kind of all the same information, just in larger font, and then a couple additional things, like how to register to vote, and what are the registration deadlines. So with that, I'll stand for any questions, but we wanted to kind of loop you guys in and let you know that we are starting our communication plan. The other only thing we'll mention is we have a schedule for weekly Facebook posts to kind of get the awareness up on this. And we will have, like I said, a full web page with the ballot language and all the information that the public would need.
Just a quick, in the ballot language, we call it 0.75%. And in the lower text, we have a reference to a 0.05%.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You see that under like the shopping cart?
Yeah, we'll fix that. I didn't catch that. Okay.
I think that's through on each one, because that makes a big difference.
Yes, we will, yeah, we'll catch that. Yeah, I think as a percentage and decimal point issue. Thank you. I
Thanks.
read this 10 times. I didn't catch that. Thank you.
And that public info date of May 22nd would be a Sunday night then?
Did you not catch that? Should be May 20, should be 23rd, excuse me. We'll fix that. Thank you.
There we go.
Monday.
I was going to say, I thought it was weird to be on Sunday night, but then again,
Nope,
that
it
may
is.
actually draw more people. I mean,
Is
who
it?
knows? But
Yeah.
I was adding it to my calendar going,
Nope, it is the 23rd. We missed, fix that. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Anything else, Brandon?
Nope, that's all my report. Thank you for those comments. We'll make sure we get.
All right. Council comments. Danny, is there anything you'd like to share with the group tonight?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Kevin Ritter.
Yeah, the past couple council meetings, I came up Peoria Street, and it looks like folks are starting to park on both sides, and that is a very thin street, so I was wanting to see what the
I was gonna bring that up myself tonight.
kind of hot or cold on whether we should do the same thing as we did.
Yeah, it is, I mean, it
I think
gets,
it's
it's really
necessary.
tight.
Yeah. You won't get a fire engine through there, very well at all. Especially
Mike, you wanna pull that Peoria Street up so we can, and it seems to be more at the south end of it, right?
Yeah, right there where the house that
Right.
the group helped with. But I think, those houses have sidewalks that come out, and then there's green space in between that and the road. So I don't know if folks that want to visit those homes are going to plan to park on that side of the road.
But I agree. I think we need to pick one side or the other of that street and,
Yeah, I think it should be the side that the existing homes were on.
I think where most of the homes are is where the parking should be, right?
But it was just a concern, so thank you.
Yeah, it's like right across, well, you can see the cars parked there on both sides, right there.
Right
That's-
here.
Yeah, that's, yeah. Oh,
That's not even where there's houses on either side right now.
Right. This is an older.
It's just be a lot of people live in one house.
they're not in that one,
Yeah, it's a little newer. Yeah, we just,
but that's the spot.
Yeah, there was 3 tonight on one in a row right there.
And it's right there,
On the other
those,
side.
those three.
yeah.
Just made me think.
And when they're lined up directly across from each other, it's a little uncomfortable going through there.
That's all I have.
All right. What's the process on that, Mike?
It's just an ordinance.
Yeah, just amend the city code, because we have parking restrictions listed in the city code.
Yeah, we have them listed out. Yeah.
Okay.
Once it's signed.
Would there be any outreach we would do to those neighbors before we sign it or implement it,
Well,
or?
that's the only thing, is that we can reach out to them and say, hey, we think this is a problem, would you mind not? Solves the issue. Because a lot of times with these parking, I mean, this is a temporary thing, typically. Has never been a problem before, maybe with the new houses,
I don't think it's with the new houses.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't. I think it's,
Well, I mean, the sidewalk parallels the road. And then
Yeah.
they have,
but it's quite a,
front of
it's,
their house goes
Usually,
back.
what I've seen on these is, unless there's some structural issue, it is, kids are, they get to driving age, and then between the time they're 16 and 18 or 20 when they leave the house, it's a problem then, but then after that, it's not a problem. And maybe if you could just address it with them, then we don't have to have no parking on.
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to reaching out to them and say, just, I don't know, maybe send a letter to everybody along that street and ask that, just say we've had some complaints about parking on both sides of the street, and
Yeah,
ask that they try and limit their parking to the
to the east side.
east side.
And clarify that part of it's for safety of emergency vehicles
Right,
and
that
fire.
it's, yeah.
Yeah,
Speaking of fire, is there something burning in?
I like it.
Yeah, I think it's a little brush fire right there, burning some.
I don't see a permit anywhere.
It's a fire pit, Mike. It's in a fire pit. It's approved. All right.
But we'll do the outreach
All right.
before we come back with an.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Rob?
A couple things. Any update on planning commission as far as terms and?
Nothing at this time.
When do their terms expire?
They expire in April,
Okay,
How many
so
openings do you have?
but they serve until they're
Until they're
replaced.
replaced.
So there's not like, it's not like there's a vacancy.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
runs out, but you continue.
but it's not like if they continue to serve that they have a whole nother term?
No.
Okay. K-10 Bridge, any update from KDOT on if it's gonna take all summer again, or?
Yeah,
Well, all summer plus.
it's gonna take all summer.
Yeah. Try and see if they can beat their record of how long it took last year by making it longer?
Yeah, well, we tried that angle first, but then on the consent agenda tonight was.
I saw that,
50,000.
but
No, but that was a result of, us hey, could you quicken it up a little bit? And they said they'd think about it, and it wasn't too, I don't think they thought about too long. I mean, the schedule is what it is. They're
It's
not-
July to November 15th, right? July.
Yeah, it's months and months.
I asked this of Patrick, but I'll ask it again, but it was asking, Sunflower property, being that it was county, now it's in our city, is there a time frame on needing to rezone that to a city zoning?
Well, Patrick, did you?
Our code provision simply says that within 90 days, the property owner is supposed to rezone it. And if they don't, the city has a prerogative of, we could do a city-initiated rezoning, but we don't have to. The regulation doesn't mandate us to, it just
Says we
indicates
have that
that we,
authority.
yeah, we can do that.
But 3-4 meetings ago, the property tax, information that you were gonna get for us on the revenue neutral for our citizens and helping explain that. Any update on that?
Yeah, I'm sorry, we don't have that yet, but the information's there, it's just not pretty, it's not pretty like this.
Okay.
So, I'm just trying to think messaging wise, when does that, because all the questions came out when they get the property tax bill. Seems really appropriate to have that during the budget discussions, because it's kind of a windfall, and so we're looking at mill levy rates, and I don't have the draft budget done, but I'm confident saying our mill levy rate will.
Probably be good to educate the public before we get into the budget discussion so they know
Yeah,
the factor. Instead of reacting to it, they're informed ahead of time,
yeah.
being proactive on it.
What are your thoughts about getting that message out? Is it similar to this, or is it just have it on hand, or is it putting, or do you have any expectations there?
I don't know if we'd have to mail it, but at least social media and in council meeting and
I
multiple
think it would be
different
appropriate
venues.
with I don't know that a separate communication about the revenue neutral, I think it would be part of our budget, and just when do you forecast the first draft of the budget coming to us?
May 5th, that's the
Okay,
schedule.
so then I would say with that will have the information in it. You just have Whitney do a post that says that with we're presenting the draft budget, it shows a,
Yeah.
whatever it is, a
But-
2
but-
mil
but-
rollback.
But most of our community doesn't know anything about revenue neutral rate or any of that. So we hired Whitney to communicate and educate our citizens. So this is a great time to be proactive and help them understand why we would be rolling it back and not just they have to hear it in a council discussion, which a lot of people don't listen to.
We could get something in the Discovering DeSoto too, when that comes out.
It might be past that time.
Well, the next one, whenever the next one,
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. We don't know the next one.
yeah.
Maybe like Rick said, a post on city social media, a post on the website prior to the 5th of May, right? Because that's the first time the budget would come out.
Right, when the budget.
So that's all I've got.
All right. Lori?
I don't have anything, Mayor, thank you.
Kevin?
It might be old news, but it hadn't been mentioned, and that is the state base grant award. Mike?
I don't know
That-
that we've, yeah, I don't know.
Kind of a nice little,
Oh, yeah, it's announced.
yeah, it's announced, but we haven't really, I don't know if
We
it's
haven't
been
announced it in
communicated
this
to.
body.
No, not, yeah.
Yeah, so Mike, tell us about our base grant applications for the,
Well, so we applied for 2 base grants, one for utilities and one for one for roads, and we didn't get those, but Flint Commerce Center got $6 million grant for their infrastructure. So they submitted, it's my understanding, I haven't seen their application, but they submitted for the road and the water and the sewer, road and the on-site water and sewer. And I think some other grading stuff was kind of included in their package, and they received a $6 million base grant for their development.
Well, that'll help fast track the first building.
City got nothing, but
the city got nothing, but their base grant application results in money that's gonna build city infrastructure.
Oh, yeah, I get.
So, I mean,
Yeah,
our community,
Yeah, they
I
haven't
mean,
really
I was-
decided, you know.
I thought it was
exactly-
amazing. When you look at what all got awarded, and DeSoto got $6 million. You know, a project in DeSoto got $6 million. Pretty impressive.
Thank you. The only other thing, so I was gonna mention Peoria Street as well, so I'm glad Kevin did that. The only other thing and I meant to ask it when, Joel was doing his presentation, did we do any kind of public meeting? I don't think we did on that Ottawa Street.
No.
Any public information meeting? Did we think it's important to, I mean, normally on a road improvement project, I think we would do, certainly if we had a lot of right-of-way we were acquiring, we would be doing it. I know this one, we only had the one. I know that we would get a lot of participation, but, was it in their scope at all to do any kind of?
I don't think so. It's not something we consider because there's not
Yeah.
affected property owners along the route, probably.
All right.
It's that first house on the west at the 82nd Street, and
Yeah.
to get to his house.
Yeah, it's right at the intersection, so.
What are any?
Public information about it, though, I think would be
So-
a heads up of what we're doing and what's the project is gonna entail.
Maybe it's not a public, maybe it's a,
I mean,
a website, you know, a
So-
web
so
link,
it's-
the communication piece from
Yeah,
the
it's-
web.
but I mean,
Social media.
communicate and educate our citizens, and that's where social media and public input, because if we started in August, that's gonna affect anybody that's going to the brush dump. I mean, so while people may go to Riverfest Park, the river, it's gonna be brush dump, so letting them know what's gonna go on and what's gonna happen is
Yeah, if the river
absolutely.
have anything going on as well, Don might want to know.
What's that?
I said if the river keepers have anything.
Oh, yeah, yeah, we'll definitely let them know. But more than anything, it's, to me, I'm proud that we're doing it.
Right,
And I want
yeah.
people to know
You're
that
right.
we are doing this because it's been a big talk
This
for a
is
long
a
time. And this is,
Park-to-park
this is
connection.
this is a huge thing to be able to do this. And for me, that's, bigger than, oh, dang, I got to a roadblock, I go around. I mean, yeah, because even at that, the people who are using it aren't gonna, why would you? I mean, so, but just to emphasize, this is totally for the citizens, not for anybody else, and there's no any other motive behind it. It's just to be able to make our parks connect and have people be able to walk or ride a bike out to that safely. And, we've talked about doing this, and
Well, and
people comment about it a lot, and I think it's
Also a good time to include the fact that it's gonna provide easier access to future soccer fields.
All right.
good idea, Rick.
Yeah, on the 87th Street stuff too, that rec path all the way out there is. Yeah, we'll make an effort, on those three public info items we talked about.
Okay.
Our citizens like this, we heard about it today, earlier this evening about being able to walk and ride bikes and get around. And, it's been proven that our citizens want that. And the fact that we're doing it and giving them that, and all the new sidewalks, and even the 83rd Street one that was completed, and the one over on 82nd Street that was completed. I mean, those are all things that have really improved the walkability or connectability in DeSoto. So with that being said, I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, second.
Okay, I didn't hear
I
it.
was so quick.
Conference is no longer
All in
being
favor,
recorded.
say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, we're adjourned.
Funny.
Can't believe I missed that. Okay, anyway.
What's that?
We should
What was that, Kevin?
plant some trees or something.
All right.
Well, I heard
Danny,
you say
too.
something day, and it's like,
Will do.
so,